the evergreen, never-dying, everlasting Legend of Zelda series. One of the few franchises that never betrayed me, though I could admit I was disappointed by Tears of the Kingdom. We'll talk about that game in due time and how it holds up to other Zelda titles, but for today, we're going to focus on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. My name is Detective Hemmings, codenamed Paperwork. I am the literary detective, and this is why Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game in the series. Let me repeat that in my normal voice in case you didn't quite catch that. BOTW is the best Zelda game in the franchise.
Well, why you booing me? I'm right.
You've probably heard me say this before, and you'll likely hear me say it again. I don't like or respect Nintendo anymore.
You what?
I haven't for years, and when the Switch era first began, it looked like things were on the up and up. With the release of the Switch on March 3rd, 2017, Nintendo and Aonuma dropped a masterclass. I even took a week off work, got a day one and everything. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an absolute masterpiece and probably the most impressive game Nintendo has released in years. Nintendo used to be a pioneer in gaming. They used to pave the way for many fantastic games we know and love today. They haven't done that in years. Sure, the Wii sold well, and the Nintendo 3DS made them money, but when's the last time Nintendo really created something innovative and revolutionary? Exactly. But it's safe to say with Breath of the Wild, they have created a new precedent for open world games with their open air style of gameplay. This game is a return to form for the franchise. It's actually a modern take on the first Zelda game, but it does away with many of the tropes and staples from the subsequent ones. It definitely keeps a lot of Zelda things, but it broke a lot of tradition standards, giving the game the fresh new makeover it so desperately needed. And this is where I need to offer my Zelda community hot take. I understand the various things Zelda fans believe are necessary to be in a Zelda game to make it a quote-unquote Zelda game. For example, heart pieces, breaking pots for rupees, linear dungeons where you get the dungeon item, solve puzzles in that dungeon with said dungeon item, and then finally the boss. But y'all thought Skyward Sword was too linear, and Nintendo and Aonuma responded accordingly. As far as I'm concerned, I am Link, the hero, and there's Princess Zelda who exists in the game, and it takes place in Hyrule, or Hyrule simply exists because sometimes we're in a parallel dimension, then it's a damn Zelda game.
Fair enough.
Y'all so annoying with this type of ish. Tangent over, let's continue. This game doesn't hold your hand at all. From the moment you start, it gives you the necessary tools you'll need to solve every puzzle and overcome any obstacle. You just have to be creative enough. This game is what I like to call the ultimate there is no bad idea game. If you have an idea in your mind, you can probably do it provided you execute it properly. The magic of this game is that there is no right way to do anything and no bad idea. Also, Link is apparently Spider-Man and can climb like any surface.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
If you see a camp of baddies,
They always ask
Honey,
that innocuous question.
see you
What did you notice when you weren't there? You know what I
looking
noticed?
at me.
no, like bad guys. There's tons of ways to approach the problem. You can run in guns blazing or swords blazing, sword swinging. Use stealth to pick them off one by one. Fight from a distance with arrows and long distance weaponry, and lots of other combinations I haven't even mentioned. Weapons in the game will break after extended use, and this is the mechanic that most people seem to be divided on, but I think it works. If you master the combat, you can maximize the usage of your weapons, and some of them last really long, especially later into the game. I think the criticism is fair, all things considered, but I think it encourages the players to try out different weapon types, which is a good thing. No hoarding. I don't have an issue with the weapons breaking mechanic personally. There's tons of variety in the weaponry as well. Tridents, spears, swords, clubs, lances, and even claymores and elemental ones. Each weapon has its advantages and disadvantages. Everyone is going to have a preference. One-handed clubs and swords are not super duper strong, but you can wield your shield at the same time for a perfect balance and defense. While claymores are huge and require both hands to wield, they boast great offensive output, but are slow and you can get hit easier. Lances still leave you a little exposed, but now you have incredible reach to attack from a distance. I use them all, but I like my classic sword and shield combination and my trusty bow and arrow. On top of using different bows, weapons, and shields for different reasons, you also have gear, clothing that thrive in different situations, armor sets. Some will increase your stealth, defense, make you fireproof, or even keep you warm in the cold. And there's ways to upgrade them by spending rupees and giving the Great Fairy specific material to upgrade your gear. I like to wear upgraded armor sets because you get set bonuses from wearing the entire thing. An example would be the entire Zora set allows you to swim faster, consume less stamina while swimming, and swim up waterfalls. You can use the ingredients you find in the wild to cook food for similar reasons and buffs like stamina boosting elixirs and food that replenish your hearts and even give you extra ones. They're called hearty meals. There's just so much customization and inventory management, but I don't think it's necessarily overwhelming. However, I do feel like you spend way too much time on the pause menu to eat food, to switch gear, and it could be annoying to having to constantly pause the game just to do a lot of menu management. I want to play the damn game.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
I know I'm not the type to need a video game story to be amazing, but that doesn't mean I want them to be bad. I just don't need them to love a video game. So let's talk about the narrative of Breath of the Wild and some of the cast. As far as story and characters go, I think the game does a good job considering the style of game this happens to be. Listen, Nintendo will never create a Zelda character as endearing, deep, amazing, and beautiful as Midna.
Perfection.
And despite the hate that it gets, Skyward Sword has a great central plot and subplots. But they've done a good job with this game. I do think some of the main characters needed a bit more fleshing out, but you can get the gist of who they are from the little we get. Princess Zelda in this game is the most interesting of the characters in my humble opinion, even though Skyward Sword Princess Zelda is still my GOAT. The story is pretty good as well. I don't think it's the best story, not even close, but it's definitely told very well. The cutscenes are beautiful and full of emotion. You really get immersed when you see them and start to piece the story together. What I found cool was since you can essentially unlock and find the cutscenes in any order, they had to make sense no matter which order you witness them in. And the game does a good job of that. Every cutscene makes sense no matter when you end up seeing it. I didn't find it confusing at all. Moreover, you can watch them from the menu anyways, so it's not like you couldn't experience them in chronological order after the fact. The graphics for this game are solid, nothing mind-blowing on a graphical scale, especially for 2024, but the art direction the game took is stunning. It's aesthetically pleasing to look at, and the characters are incredibly beautiful. There are unfortunately frame rate dips when a lot is happening on the screen, and the textures for some things in the game are not so clean up close. Probably so that the game wouldn't need to load while you travel to different areas and reduce pop-in. However, overall, I think the game looks great for the most part. They cut some corners in some areas to increase the general performance of the game. The Switch is a piece of shit though.
Diddly poo.
And it's not very powerful, so credit to the team for optimizing the game well for the best possible experience. I have over 300 hours in Breath of the Wild, and I'm still finding cool things you can do and places I haven't been to yet. If you were worried about things to do in this game, fear not, there are tons of activities to engage in. There are 120 Sheikah shrines, not including DLC, which are mini dungeons with puzzles to solve. Completing one will net you a spirit orb, and you need 4 to increase your hearts or stamina. I love shrines. I just think there's too many of them, even in tiers. I just think there needs to be less, but I suppose I understand the complaints. But this is actually where I realized you can solve puzzles in so many creative ways, and that resonated with me. There was a shrine where you had to make the electrical current reach the door so the gate would open, and I couldn't really figure out the placement of all the metallic blocks. And I just thought, what if I used my claymore? And it worked. And I was even able to get my claymore kind of around the door and get it back. So for me, that was big. There are, in a sense, 5 traditional Zelda dungeons if we include DLC, but these mini dungeons are what you'll be inside of often, as they are spread all over the huge map. I don't love or hate the quote-unquote real dungeons, aka the defined beasts, but I think they are one of the weaker parts of the game. Samey gimmicks, architecture, and it's just not that engaging, though I admit being able to manipulate the environment and structure of the dungeon to access different areas and solve puzzles is actually pretty cool. Hearing and seeing how people did these in different orders and in different ways is very interesting. There were 900 Korok seeds and 76 side quests. I don't remember if the DLC added anymore. Not to mention the main quest, so trust me, there is a lot to do. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of the greatest video game experiences I've had in a long time. I often wish I could forget it just to re-experience the magic all over again. It's the best Zelda game to date. Yes, it's better than Ocarina of Time and Tears of the Kingdom.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
And if you have a Switch or a Wii U, forget the Wii U part. Just play it on Switch. There are no other open world games that is truly as free as this game. You can do anything, go anywhere at any time, and the game does not limit you or hold your hand. There's so much I am saving for another Zelda video just in case, so as not to rob you of an incredible gaming experience. Companies have responded well to this game by dropping games like Elden Ring. That being said, we'll wrap it up here for this first lap, but be sure to return when I talk about why, overall, Tears of the Kingdom is inferior to Breath of the Wild. Zelda is a special franchise that's been with me since childhood. I truly believe each game for the most part has something special to offer, but this one is my favorite one, and I also think it's the best one. Having said all that, this case is closed. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and God bless.
I suppose it would make sense if my power had dwindled over the past 100 years. I'm surprised to admit it, but I can accept that.